The Ghost of Christmas Party Past, written by Anna von Black. The office holiday party was a chaotic swirl of ugly sweaters, cheap champagne, and pop Christmas tunes blasting through the speakers. Sam, feeling buzzed and tired of awkward small talk with coworkers, wandered downstairs where the offices had still been mostly abandoned post COVID. It was quieter down there, with only faint echoes of the party above, and he could take the edge off with his vape pen. That's when he saw her. She introduced herself as Stella. Her blue dress shimmered like the lights on the office Christmas tree, and her auburn hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders. She had a vintage elegance about her, and Sam found himself instantly drawn to her. Far from the maddening crowd as well, he joked. Her laugh was soft and melodic, but something about it made his jaw tense up. "A fellow reader, I see," she said. "People forget the little corners of this place during the holidays." They started talking about work, the party, and life in general. Stella was easy to talk to. Her voice was soft and comforting, though there was a faith note of sadness weighing down her words, like she was hiding a secret behind her sparkling smile. At that precise moment, she explained, it was her first year in the city, and after a year of working in the mailroom, she still found it hard to make friends or form any real connections. The city was a cruel mistress. Being surrounded by millions of people, but seen by none, is a deadly kind of loneliness. The minutes ticked by. She suggested they move the party to the mailroom since she had her own key. "I bet you're a terrible dancer," she teased, her ice blue eyes glittering in the dim mailroom light. "You'd be surprised," Sam shot back, taking her hand. She was right, though. He was terrible, and she laughed as he stumbled through the clumsy two-step. She never once let go, guiding him gracefully across the scuffed floor. Her hands were so cold, freezing actually, but Sam chalked it up to him, running a little hot from the booze and weed, and her being affected by the nasty draft in the old building. As the night went on, they swayed closer, her icy fingers brushing his cheek, her minty scent wrapping around him like a winter breeze. Time seemed to slow, the music from upstairs fading into the background. Sam couldn't stop staring at her perfect pale skin, the way her breath didn't seem to fog up the chilly air. He noticed she shivered occasionally, but whenever he asked if she was cold, she just smiled and shook her hair. He even offered to go get them some more drinks and a hit off his weed pen, but she simply giggled and said, "Don't drink, don't smoke." When they found themselves under the mistletoe, a miserable little sprig hanging from an old pipe, he hesitated. Her face was just inches from his, that voice in his head telling him to go for it, but somehow he was stuck in the moment, unable to talk, move, or breath, her eyes desperately searching for his. "You're not afraid, are you?" she whispered. "No," he murmured, leaning in. Her lips were ice against his, making the hair on the back of his neck stand up. But the kiss deepened, and for a moment he forgot everything else. When they pulled back, she smiled. They pulled back, she smiled, a wistful expression crossing her face. "Let's get out of here, Sam," she said softly. Sam eagerly agreed. They decided for him to gather his things and sneak out of the party while she got her things together. Office politics dictated it was best to left, the party separately. Thorry. He told her to give him a bit of time, and he'd pull her to give him a bit of time, and he'd pull the car up by the entrance and wait for her. But Stella never came. He waited in the cold, watching the snow drift as the car warmed up. The giant inflatable Santa near the entrance, judging him as he sucked on his weed pen, trying to keep his anxiety at bay, the car motor humming faintly till it faded away. Hours passed. Sam's anxious excitement turned to confusion, then unease. He must have dozed off because the next thing he knew, had a flashlight in his eyes and a tapping on his car window. It was Joe, the old security guard, judging him through the glass, worse than inflatable Santa had hours ago. "What are you doing out here, kid?" Sam groggily rolled down the window. "I'm waiting for Stella. Everybody's gone. Kid, you can't stay here. If you're too drunk to drive, I can get you a cab." "I'm not drunk. I just dozed off. I'm waiting for someone, kid." "I'm telling you, there's nobody left. You gotta go." "I'm waiting for Stella. She works in the mailroom. I'm taking her home." "Not like that. Even though he hoped with every ounce of testosterone it was like that. How was he going to explain this to a 100-year-old man? Joe's expression hardened. Stella. He shook his head. Ain't nobody by that name here. Kid, party's over, time to go? Come on, man. I was just with her, Sam insisted. She said she'd meet me here. Joe squinted, looked around and up at the camera as he stood under the parking lot lights. Follow me. Sam reluctantly got out of the car and followed Joe back into the empty building, now eerily silent except for the faint hum of technology and the heating system. The security guard led him to a wall of framed photos and stood with his back to the cat. Well, show me Stella, Joe said, his tone grim. Sam scanned the photos, his breath catching when he spotted her. She was smiling, wearing the same blue dress, her auburn hair styled exactly as it had been earlier. That's her. He said, pointing with a trembling hand. Joe took his gloves off while shaking his head and sighing heavily. But what? Sam demanded, his voice rising as his heart beat out of his chest. Joe stepped away from the wall, revealing a plaque as he tried to soften his grisly voice. She killed herself in this building sometime right before Christmas. Some say she's still around. Very few say they've seen her, especially during the holiday party. The air seemed to freeze as Sam looked upon the plaque that read, "Gone but not forgotten." Sam's mind raced, replaying eerie moment, her icy touch, her shivers, the melancholy in her eyes. He felt his knees go weak as he stumbled back, heart and head pounding. Sam fled to his car, his breath nothing more than shallow gasps. He couldn't shake the image of her smile or the feel of her frozen lips. The sound of her laugh ringing in his ears like a bomb went off that blew his entire life up. He took sick leave after the Christmas shutdown. He just couldn't square the circle of what had happened that night. When he finally returned to the office, determined to find some logical explanation, he returned to the mailroom. But the mistletoe was gone, and the mailroom was no longer a mailroom. It was just a storage room for old boxes now. Every Christmas since, he's felt her presence. The faint minty scent that lingered. The ghostly echo of her laugh, and every year he wonders if she's still waiting under the mistletoe, longing for one last dance, though he never dares go down to the old mailroom to find out. Tell me your supernatural experiences in the comments. And don't forget to turn on notifications for the next spooky holiday story.